So dating is pretty challenging at the best of times, but it's even more so when you have a chronic illness that very few people really understand how it works. So as a dialysis patient, you spend a lot of time in and around hospitals, in dialysis units. You spend a absorbent amount of time doing dialysis, being prepared for dialysis, getting ready for dialysis, recovering from the effects of dialysis. And a lot of like perceived healthy people view that as a negative, right? Like healthy people don't want to slow down so you can keep up with them. To a healthy person, that you're trying to date, from my experience of me trying to do this, they perceive me as a dialysis patient to have no value. Like, I hear this a lot of, oh,
well, I wouldn't want to date him now, but if I was like with him before he got sick, then maybe.
And it can be frustrating sometimes because, you're a human being just like everybody else. Human beings are social animals. You're trying to find that connection. You're trying to find soulmates. But every person that you meet, the minute that they find out that, you have this medical condition and they don't understand how dialysis works, they're just like, oh, no, thank you. Especially if you're a man, right? Because a man's worth is based off of the things that he owns, according to society, and how like dating is now. Oh, well, this guy needs to make 100K a year, and he's got to be 6'2", 6-pack abs. You can't just be just like a regular person anymore. A lot of times, speaking for myself, like I don't always have a ton of energy to just be running around all over the place, jumping out of airplanes and climbing Mount Everest, and like I don't have energy for that a lot of times. Now, I want to be very clear when I say this. This is not a reflection. Any of this stuff I'm saying is not a reflection of how I view myself. This is the this is like the perception of what, as me being male, when I used to try to date as a dialysis patient, how I am perceived, not how I view myself. There is a unpredictability about being a dialysis patient that people try to tell you they can anticipate, but they really can't. You know what I mean? If you're scheduled to go, on vacation with them, with your perceived romantic interest, to like, I don't know, like Disneyland or something for like a week. This is hypothetical. And you get sick and you end up in the hospital for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to deal with that. And then there are occasions where, like, and things like that, recovering from medical procedures, hospital stays, dialysis treatments, all that stuff can be very taxing for a promising, budding relationship in the very beginning. And with the way things are today, a lot of women don't really want to deal with that right out the gate. They don't understand dialysis. They don't understand what it takes to, be a dialysis patient. They don't understand transplant. They don't understand any of this stuff. All they see is the illness. And it's like, oh, well, you're broken, so I don't want to play with broken toys. And this is not just exclusively for, men trying to date women. It goes both ways, because I've heard stories of men just ghosting women because, they're dialysis patients. In reality, in order to be able to date somebody that's on dialysis, that person has to be as committed to you as you are to doing dialysis. And they have to be understanding. They have to be patient. Those are like the ingredients to be with somebody with any chronic illness that like affects their lives on a daily basis. I've noticed that a lot of modern people don't really have the patience for that. It's like up next, up next, up next. Like, I understand more than any body that dialysis is challenging. Like, it's very hard. And if I were to get with somebody, they're not just dating me, right? Like they're dating all of me and everything that comes along with it. And as a patient, like, I don't want to depend, like I don't want to depend on somebody that I just met, early on, because then it's just like, oh, well, this guy's needy. He's too weak. That's perceived as weakness. So they're thinking to themselves, well, why would I want to date him who's half a man when I could just go out and just get a full man? They think to themselves, well, I'm not a nurse. I'm not a caregiver. I don't want to take care of this guy. But most patients can take care of themselves. Granted, they're not like very elderly or they have other underlying conditions. We looking for partners just as much as anybody else. Kidney disease or any other chronic illness could happen to anybody. Nobody's exempt. I've noticed that when people are healthy and they're feeling good, there's this idea that it can't happen to them. Oh no, that would never happen to me. Sometimes you can miss out on something really good and something really special. It's something very beneficial to your life.